At, let's see, 6:09, I would like to call the meeting, look at, oh, that's so quiet. Call the meeting to order and like to begin by recognizing that tonight's meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Nanaimo people. Seeking if there's any additions, deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask if there is any change to the order. Seeing none. Okay, I'll seek a motion to approve the agenda. So moved by Trustee Higginson and seconded by Trustee McKay. And all in favor? Yes. Okay, and I'll seek a motion for the approval of the minutes. So moved by Trustee Keller and seconded by Trustee Barron. All in favor? Yes. Okay, well then now we get to the fun part. Thank you for the business there. We have something that's going to be a lot of fun. So this evening, the ladies, do you guys have a name of your group besides? The Lads. Alrighty. This evening, we have a presentation from the Lads, which are also students of the Ladysmith School Secondary, Ladysmith Secondary School. And it's the floor is yours.
Okay. All right, Alex. All right, let's go. Here we go. Let's go. Hi, everybody. My name is Alexander. I'm actually an alumni, a graduate of 2010. I lived not my whole life, but I experienced school through this school district and have come back because I just like to be inspired. So why not spend it with a bunch of inspiring youth? We're going to be doing some improvised theater for you. Does everybody have who's seen improvised theater here before? Pretty much the whole squad. Excellent. Improvised theater, for those of you that might not have had, is theater we're creating on the spot using your suggestions. We're going to be doing a pretty cool little kind of vignettes of all sorts tonight. In a very brief period of time, yeah. Should we ask them for the theme?
Yeah, let's
yeah. So when I ask for a theme, I'm looking for something like risk or fear and loathing, or like all good novels are named after themes, really. So even if you have one that inspires you, just share that with us now. The forum's open. Just yell them at me and I'll pick the best one. no, I'll pick one that inspires us.
Flight to Mars.
Greed.
Greed! Greed is a beautiful theme. Because, so we are going to present to you the theme of greed.
And I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes.
And they'll get 3 minutes, yeah.
3 minutes at a time. And we're going to see this theme on greed.
Greed in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Improv.
Aiden.
Toby.
You got your shovel?
I got my shovel.
Let's go rob some graves.
There's the gravestone. Kick! You have brought me back to life. I, King Midas.
Grab the bag, Aiden.
And my golden touch.
See where that got us, Aiden? Now we're frozen.
Oh, shoot.
Frozen, just like as the Ice Age came to the world. For the world was consumed in its own greed. Too many plants, too many dinosaurs. The hubris of evolution had to be quelled in an icy snow.
But then came Bella, the firefly, the most selfless being in the world. She only cared for others, not herself. So she went to the dinosaurs and used her little light bulb butt and warmed them up.
She warmed someone up. She warmed not only their skin, but their hearts as well.
Oh, thank you, Bella. I feel so much warmer and kinder now because of you.
And the ice made the oceans.
This warmth of all their selflessness made the sun.
And the sun created life for all beings down on Earth.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. So, I was looking in the pantry earlier, and, I noticed my salsa, it's gone. And,
Well, you see, son, I made you dinner last night, and you ate it all. None left to me. I had no leftovers for lunch today for work, so I took your salsa, bought the chips, and left. You don't have salsa because it's my salsa, because I bought you the salsa. As I made your food, it's all mine, you're mine.
As Liam got older, his brain became more and more guarded, and he became to think more and more of himself. He was becoming just like his father.
Dad, I don't need you. All I need in life is myself and my salsa. And I'm gonna take that salsa right back.
It's my salsa.
Aiden's heart then broke in two. He realized what he'd done to his poor, beautiful son by making him a monster just like himself.
Aiden started to cry.
Dad, this is your fault. I know. You know what? You want my salsa? Take it.
This was the most powerful thing Liam could have done.
Aiden did the first selfless thing he'd ever done in his life.
He opened up the salsa and shared it with his now grown son.
Dad.
And they feasted.
The salsa warmed their hearts, like Bella once did for the dinosaurs.
This salsa had been created
5 seconds.
by one of the first tomatoes from after the Ice Age.
And slowly, everyone became unity and whole and one once more.
So we have 2 more quick things. We're going to just do a couple people if you just reflect on what improv means to you and what it's taught you. And I think Mr. Travers is making some connections for us. Okay, so go ahead.
Hi. Hi, my name is Maya O'Donnell. I'm a senior at Ladysmith Secondary. I've been in improv for 5 years. I've learned a lot of communication skills at my time in improv. And it's been a great community that we've all get to form together. Some skills that I've learned through improv is just performance skills, and recently this year I was cast in a youth company in Vancouver, and it's been really amazing to have these opportunities just done right through my school at improv.
I'm Liam. I'm in grade 12, and it is my first year. And so far I've had such a wonderful time. Everybody's so accepting. I've broken out of my shell, gained so much confidence. I can speak on stage easily. I've learned to project my voice. Mr. Taylor has given me so much knowledge and wisdom, and I've grown so much in these past 6 months than I think I have throughout my whole school career.
Wow.
You bet. Good. And I think what's demonstrated here is we talk about our core competencies. And I think the core competencies of communication, I hope you see creativity coming through these students and just around personal and social awareness. And I'm very proud of these students. And one of the things I really notice is that they help to build our culture in our school, the idea of leaving no one behind, because it's so easy in improv that you could actually make somebody leave them hanging, but they don't, and they're a community, and I'm really proud of these guys. So, thanks for listening.
And be sure to get out to next year's show. 6 performances, an amazing band, the Staph Infection. Quickly becoming my favorite. The Beatles.
Alrighty, well, thank you. That was amazing. I felt like there was a Steve Martin film in there, and Chariots of Fire, and now I know that all of our meetings we need to have salsa because that's what brings people together. So I feel honored to have that life insight. I know we're short on time, but maybe we have time for one or two questions if we have before I try to reach over to someone to give a bit of a thank you. Anybody have any questions for these guys?
I'm going to say something more.
Yes?
Yes, because I didn't get to say anything yet. The improv troupe is about 20 years old. I've been there the whole time at Ladysmith Secondary School. And what I love about it is we had 60 kids in the troupe this year and about 75 in our shows. And people like Alex come back from 10 years out in the world, and he gets to show these students how the skills they've gained work for them. And I think it's really beautiful, the longevity and just giving hope to people and showing them what's possible. I think it's really wonderful. And can you just maybe speak for just a few quick seconds on your takeaway after a decade of time?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm gonna get real with you real quick. I grew up in a home that didn't really have either parental figure. Chronic fatigue syndrome ran in my family, which naturally feeds into depression, anxiety. Some other circumstances occurred, so we got to add PTSD on top of that pile. And so I just became this emotionless husk. And it was through improv, through the community, both in my peers as well as my mentors, whether that is also Mr. Alsop in our band program, also, of course, Mr. Taylor. And that, to be the most trite as I can be, it enabled me to feel again. So I came from this sort of empty nothingness, and I learned how to be ambitious, how to be relentless in learning, and how to actually love other human beings from an environment that was without. Yeah, it's a powerful program.
That's more powerful than salsa. I don't know how to make my way over here, but we have, thank you, Chris. I think it speaks volumes that we estimated how many students we thought would come, and there are more students than we have thank you cards. So if I can hand this out here, and just Karen will find out whoever else we didn't get a chance to thank, but we really appreciate the opportunity to not only be inspired and feel all creative and stuff, but to know that there's also an education and socio-emotional value to it. It's quite beautiful.
Just a quick comment. Mr. Taylor flashed over the fact that he had been around for 20 years when this happened. If it weren't for Mr. Taylor, none of this would likely have happened. So I teared up. It made me cry. Plus the work that Bill does with Mandy Jones in the Land Base and Language program. Those two people working together. Amazing things are happening at this school. And the new principal this year, I think, is going to take that school in amazing directions. And I'm sorry that you guys are graduating. I wish we had a grade 13.
Me too.
I'll just add my thanks, Trustee Robinson. I'll add my congratulations to Mr. Taylor. I was ready for something spectacular, and because it's always spectacular, and that's in large part, of course, to your teacher. So I thank you, Mr. Taylor. About 16 years ago, I was in the staff infection band.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for an invite, Mr. Taylor, to come play again. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Alrighty. Well, that's going to be a tough act to follow. I believe.
Let them sneak out, perhaps.
Oh, would you? So you're welcome to stay for the scintillating meeting that we're about to have.
We're pretty boring.
Or run right now.
Or run. If you would like to make an exit at this time, you're more than welcome to, or you're welcome to stay. Entirely up to you.
Yeah. Don't stay.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
Do we have two names here?
Thank you, sir. Nice work. Always.
Oh, okay. Vice Principal and Balcom and Baldwin.
Yes. Are both presenting on the policy together.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just I could imagine.
Alrighty. So we're Dover Bay Principal Dawn Balcombe, I assume, and the Rock City Elementary Vice Principal Linda Baldwin are going to present and some additional special guests, I see. We'll be presenting.
You've already introduced Dawn Balcombe, but I just wanted to say our gratitude, Dawn, for coming forward to actually do the presentation. And I think that to frame them coming in today would have been the fact that these two great leaders are leading our PLC revitalization principal and vice principal leadership group. And so that's why they're here this evening.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Linda. Linda's currently, Dawn's our principal of Dover Bay Secondary, and Linda is currently a vice principal at Rock City Elementary. But Linda was also one of the learning coordinators on our team just previous to that, and she's actually facilitated the creation of this PLC handbook that you have in your package, just for a little background context. And Dawn and Linda are going to give you a brief overview of all things PLC, the collaborative time that we have in the district. And as you're aware, PLC time, this collaborative time, is a really integral part of response to intervention framework.
Can I just add one thing quickly? I do this, sorry you guys. We also have in the audience Jill Bailey, who is a former principal of Dover, as well as former principal at Woodlands, where Mr. Hancock is now teaching or running programs. So yeah, not teaching, district principaling. So it's really an honor to have you back, Jill. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Right
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us here to share a little bit about professional learning communities. Thank you, Laura and Robin, although if you told us we were going after an improv troupe, we would have politely declined and said, no thanks, another time. Schedule the students last so they can close the show is always a better way to go. So we're just going to share a little bit about the PLC. As they mentioned, we're on a committee, so there's a group of us that are looking at professional learning communities in the district and looking at ways to make the most of it. My own experience with professional learning communities goes back to I'm not sure if it's 99 or 2000. Rick DeFore and Robert Eckert wrote a book called Professional Learning Communities at Work. And that was kind of the beginning of professional learning communities as we know them. And over the next 20 years, they have evolved into an integral part in lots of school districts. One of the things that I went to a conference, and I can't remember whether I bought the book and then went to the conference or went to the conference and had to buy the book. But I remember Richard DeFore saying, among other things that they were doing in their district, there was wonderful things. I remember him saying the phrase, collaboration by invitation doesn't work. And at that time, in 1999 or 2000, that was counterintuitive for me. When you think collaboration by invitation doesn't work, it just didn't seem to fit. Like for me, it was go with the committee of the willing. If people want to do stuff, you just go with them and run forward. And over the last 20 years, that collaboration by invitation doesn't work has grown to mean more to me, and I've become more strongly committed to what that phrase really means. The complexity of the school systems we work with, the demands to meet the needs of every student. 20 years ago was if you taught well, by definition, if I spit the information out, I was a good teacher, and if the students didn't learn, that was their problem. Thankfully, we've come so far now that it's about the student learning, and part of that student learning is the importance of ensuring success for all, which is our district vision, and you can't do that alone. And so the option for teachers and adults in our system to say, no, you guys collaborate, just leave me out, is no longer there. So that collaboration by invitation is off the table, and so we put structures in place to ensure that the work gets done, so the students who are struggling and deserve the best get the best from us as a collective group. So a couple of other quotes to get us rolling here. This quote is from Mike Schmocker. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce his name. Haven't met him. I think it's Schmocker. Just mentions that if there's anything that researchers have agreed on, it's that the right kind of continuous structured teacher collaboration improves the quality of teaching and pays big, often immediate dividends in student learning and professional morale in virtually any setting. So the experience from the research community would say that schools across the nation bear this out unequivocally. And that was a quote from 15 years ago and is just more and more true today. John Hattie, if Scott hasn't already rolled out the Hattie stuff, he will for you, and bend your as much as he can. lists all of the different things that can impact on student learning, and collective teacher efficacy, that sense that teachers working together and through their work together building a strong belief that they can impact the learning for each and every child, is the #1 influence in school systems today. So if of all the things that we do in education, if we think where can we pour our attention, we can't do them all. Getting teachers together and building that belief that they can change practice, that collective teacher efficacy and impact learning, is the #1. And so our professional learning communities built around providing that opportunity for teachers to influence learning. Linda's going to walk through a whole bunch of the structures and stuff that we've built in this system here.
So the ultimate goal of a professional learning community is to improve student achievement. And as Dawn says, we know it's really clear that effective instruction has a huge impact. It's the #1 factor in student achievement. In fact, the difference between an ineffective and an effective teacher can make the difference 4 times in a student's achievement. So that's huge. And we also know that leadership is the second factor in student achievement. And we know that professional learning is the key factor in collective efficacy. Bringing teachers together and learning has a huge impact. So being that our PLCs is a venue for that, and it brings it all together. It's a venue for school-based leadership to have direct influence and lead and facilitate that student learning. And it's key. And so our efforts within this structure foster the commitment of our strategic plan, and it helps to create alignment across our district. So our 4 goals are there: continuous improvement of instruction and assessment, meeting our students' unique needs, reconciliation, and then of course accountability and effectiveness. So more specifically, our district's PLC model helps us to have that open communication, foster our collaborative learning, focused on our 4 areas of the learning framework. And so curriculum and instruction, assessment and reporting, building that collaborative culture, and safe, caring, and inclusive schools. And traditionally, our teachers have been, teaching has been behind closed doors and a very individualistic type of endeavor. And we have so many different teachers from so many different generations, really, and coming in from different decades. And now students are more complex and teaching is more complex. And we know that strategies that are really effective to move students forward. And so we learn through this collaboration time, and we bring our teachers together and we create these common understandings, and we look at our students and our next steps. And this brings out new innovative ways of teaching, and it helps to build that capacity amongst teachers. So we have, through our collaboration across the district and bringing our research to the table, literally a few years ago, we had a leadership team that came in various roles. We met in this room, in fact, and we brought all of our research together, and we looked at, okay, how can we develop a common understanding of PLCs across this district? And we came forward with these 6 after a few hours of really synthesizing all this information, and we came forward with these 6 areas that were common amongst all the things that we'd read and learned. And the first being common understanding. So these are the 6 components of a PLC, and we recognize that PLCs facilitate the ability for us to have these common understandings. We can create understandings around our goals for both the district and at the school level, our goals in teaching. It really truly is a way for us to look and create alignment across the district. Literally, what is a PLC? At the beginning of the year, I think every school spends time we have so much turnover in staff, and it's really important to create those common understandings as to what a PLC is and what our goals are for both the school and across the district. Focus on student learning. So we have, our PLCs are a catalyst for improving instruction. I've said that, and truly it's teachers collaborating and reflecting and learning together about our students. And it brings our teachers together out of their classrooms, around tables, and we know that that peer influence and accountability is key when we're learning from our colleagues. So we make decisions together, we look at data, we analyze that data, we think about priorities for our school and our students and our instruction and how we're going to meet their needs, and we really grapple with questions and open ourselves up to learning from others. And that's the key there, is the relationship and having that open stance to learning. And that doesn't come easily when we're talking about our own practice and how we are going to meet our students' needs. And so even after many, many years of teaching, we learn new things every single day when we reflect on whether it's working for our kids or not. So having that trust and safety and building that within our school environments is key, and so that we can be vulnerable and ask questions and learn from each other. And then the last component is documenting and sharing that learning, and learning across the school, but also learning across the district and learning even provincially. We share, and on the island we have a network, and across the province we have a network. And so that's a key piece so that we can take our next steps in our learning journey. So PLC is the structure, and the easiest way that I look at PLC is the structure, and collaborative inquiry is the process that we go through. So this is a combination of models that we've collected again, both from some very famous provincial educators, Judy Halbert and Linda Kaiser. They have taken a model internationally, as well as this model, which is a very basic plan, act, observe, reflect, inquiry model that has been used extensively across both Canada and North America, and I'm sure beyond that. And so what we've done in our district is we've taken this basic model and we've integrated it with much more complex questions to guide teachers through it. And so I've shown you a very basic model, but in the PLC handbook, you'll see multi-layers of this with the questions added to it. And those questions are there, as I say, to guide teachers through this process. So it's through this process that teachers go deep into learning and actually connect the PLC process with the student learning. So what we do is we look at what's going on for our learners, and we look at that through the data that we bring to the table. So whether it be our reading data, or writing data, whether we have collected data on our culture and our school and building community amongst our students, basically what's going on for our learners. And we try and dig a little deeper, not just the basic, but we look at the why, and we just keep digging, and what's the why behind what's going on. And then we look at what are we going to do about it. And we know that we need to do something differently, because currently what we're doing might not be working for those particular students if we're seeing what we're seeing in the data. And then we try new strategies, and we go into our classroom, and that's the benefit of the PLC, is that it's connected and it's embedded within our school day and within our environment, so we can spend time in our PLC, we can go to our classrooms, we can try new things, and we can come back to the table and we can reflect on that and share it amongst our colleagues. And we look at how do we know if we've made enough of a difference? Did what we do make a difference? And we know that kids learn no matter what we do. That's the benefit of kids. But at the same time, we need to know that we've done something well beyond that. So the question, that enough in there, is a really important piece. How do we know we've made enough of a difference in trying what we're trying? And then we look at that and we say, now what? What are we going to do? What are we going to do next? So this is our inquiry model, and this is what we use within our PLC. And this is what drives the professional learning piece of it when we talk about PLC being, and collaborative inquiry as being professional learning model. That's what drives the learning and connects it directly to our students' learning. So we look at questions, and we engage in this question process, and we look at our students, and then we form a plan, and then we monitor whether these strategies are working or not, and we figure out what to do next. And so this, in effect, leads to more and more innovation and new and different ideas, and then we keep trying new things, and we keep seeing the impact that we're having on our students.
So yeah, if you've had a chance to work with Linda and Judy, they're fabulous. They're BC born and bred and grown and experts. And so there you go, innovation floats on a sea of inquiry. And curiosity is the driver for change. So one of the curiosities that we have right now is how are our PLCs doing out in our system? And so that's part of why Robin and Laura have asked us to form a committee and kind of do that bit of an inquiry process around that. So our committee right now is getting together and kind of saying, hey, what's going on out there? What's working? What supports do they need? What building capacity do we need to provide? What training, in-service, and supports so that those PLCs can function at the highest of levels? So that's where we're at. That's where we're going next. And we wonder what questions you have for us.
Okay, I'll go with Trustee Barron.
Through the chair. I'm looking at this and I'm trying to figure out as a board member, I guess on page 10 of 49 on this document, we're looking at the key components of the PLC. I think it's fantastic how you've broken it down into 6 areas, and you were speaking to these. The one thing that sort of stands out for me though is that we have this interconnected puzzle where we have the components, and then we have relationship as a separate piece of the puzzle on there, which is characteristics of how these components are going to work. And so I guess for me, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, why the decision to have it separate? Would it be more representative to have the relationships as an interconnected piece amongst all of those components to be more representative of what's being said here? Because you're saying one thing, but what I'm seeing is a little different. So I'm just wondering your thoughts. It's not a criticism,
Yeah.
it's more of an observation.
All 6 of these components are a part of the PLC to make it function effectively and optimally. So if one of those is missing, then we don't have an effective PLC. And that includes the common understandings, it includes the document and sharing, and it includes the focusing in on student learning, and group decision making. So all 6 of those components have to be there, interconnected, in order for it to function effectively. Was the thought behind that?
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Trustee Higginson?
Thank you, through the chair. So I had 2 questions. You answered one, which was, are we PLCing PLC? And it sounds like we're PLCing PLC, which is good to hear.
Yeah.
And my other question, I'm not sure if it goes to you guys or who, but you know, one of the big things that we face out there as trustees is, why are my kids getting out early on Monday? And why are they getting out early on Monday? Why? And you know, I think I'm a big believer in these. I will fight for this time. I do think we could do it better. Here's my plug. But I think...
That was to you, by the way.
No one's heard it before. I say it all the time. But I'm wondering, this handbook is awesome, and I know it's directed, I think it's for people who are actually practicing the PLC. But, and I appreciate that it's professional learning community, but we need to have the community support the notion of professional learning community. And I'm wondering if it's not possible to send out this handbook or a link to it through our district communications at some point in some way. Our, you know, my kid's principal sends home the newsletter. We also get the district communications. It's, you know, it's pretty wordy, but I think people who are interested might read it. There's a lot of information in here. I gave a copy of it to my husband. He didn't understand it, but what he did say was, this is really good to know. And so it's another one of those marketing the importance of PLC to children's learning and the importance of it. So my suggestion might be that we somehow communicate that out. Maybe this particular document is too much, but I think there's a lot of really valuable information here that our community could benefit from, so that the professional learning community also has the whole community, the whole learning community supporting it. I just stepped through the chair.
I do think that's a great idea, and we have, in our sort of beginning stages, 2014, 15, sent out an abridged version, an info, almost like a parent brochure, and we probably could, on a regular basis, kind of bring that back up again, keeping in mind that new parents coming into the system all the time.
And I think it has to have a catchy title in the email that's like, why is your kid leaving early on Monday? Not, what is a professional learning community? No.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be geared towards the audience.
I'll give you 2 bits of information, and you can do with them what you want around that. One is a gumball machine example, and I shared this last year with a group of educators. When I was playing hockey as a little kid, we had a gumball machine in the hockey rink, and at the end of the game, we would, depending on, I guess, if we behaved or something, we would get a quarter to go put in the gumball machine. And the gumball machine always had different flavors. And you'd line up and you put your money in, the gumball would bounce on its way down. And you always, as you lifted up the little lid, were hoping to get the color you wanted, the flavor that you wanted. And some kids didn't care because they just wanted candy, and some kids were really disappointed if they got the wrong gumball. And of course, sometimes there was no quality control at all, so sometimes the gumball that rolled out had been bounced around that gumball machine for a year or 2 or 3, and it was rock hard, and you didn't like it. And I often equate teachers working in isolation as a multi-flavored gumball machine. You never know what you're going to get, and you hope that what you get matches who you are as a learner. And one of the things that I see PLCs doing really, really well is changing the multi-flavored gumballs and some of the stale ones bouncing around there into some uniformity, some consistency, some promise and commitment to our parents that the quality is everywhere in the system. It's not a luck of a gumball machine bouncing through. The other analogy, or the other piece that I use, and we talk with our staff around the idea of having people working together is not, one teacher in a room plus one teacher equals wisdom of 2 people. Like 1 + 1 should not equal 2. Teacher collaboration implies that if you put one teacher working collaboratively alongside another teacher, you get more than 2. The sum of those 2 parts is more. And 2 teachers working together with 2 other teachers in a team of 4 yields a lot more than 4. And so for me, the value of having teachers work together in a PLC where it's an inquiry model where you are saying, what do we want the kids to learn, and how do we know when they've learned that? What do we do when they don't learn? And that constant repetition cycle is our promise to our parents that 2 teachers working with 2 teachers gets more than 4 for your son or daughter. It yields more. It gives more back to the system. And hopefully you get a gumball that's got consistently good, yummy flavor.
Trustee Keller?
I think Trustee Higginson already addressed my question, so thank you.
Trustee Robinson?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
First of all, a quick pat on the back to the 2011-2014 board. PLCs were almost not going to get started, and we insisted we couldn't do 1 a week, but we got 2 a month, I believe, or 1 a month. We at least kept them going, and the next year we had the money to fund them appropriately. Just thinking, Linda, you were around before PLCs, and you were a teacher and you had your experiences. Compare you as a teacher then and what you were getting out of teaching personally to what the average teacher and you personally are getting out of it with, 5 years of PLCs?
Mm-hmm. I came into the district as an instructional coordinator 6-7 years ago. I was in a different district. I was in North Vancouver School District for 14 years. And so I just know that as a young teacher and as a more experienced teacher, you collaborate. And it's really nice to have those relationships within a school and to build them. PLCs provide more than that because I can give the experience from our school in the last couple of years, and that we've really sort of traveled down this path of very specific, structured, leading this process in our school, looking at data and connecting that to looking at our data, our student data, and recognizing the work that we have to do, in our school and with our students and with our teachers, and bringing that to the table and really looking at it across the school. So we have been able to influence our student support schedule by looking at our data across the school and prioritizing that, and who really needs support and how do we change that throughout the year in order to respond to the students' needs. And prioritizing learning outcomes so that teachers are focusing on the right things. And also looking at data across a grade level and being able to say this clearly is an area of deficit and what are we doing about it, even if it might not fit exactly in the curriculum because the kids didn't learn it when we taught it the year before and things like that. So it's really been a venue for us to open up conversation and be really honest about where things are at with our students and look at it's hard to look at teacher practice. It's a difficult conversation to have, but it's a lot easier when we're doing it in terms of our students and looking at that specifically and trying to move them forward because we care about that. That's important. So it's made a real difference to have that time and to have that really structured approach to that time as well.
Little or none of that happened with a new teacher mentored by
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing that we're seeing is that we have so many new teachers coming into the system that that need to be onboarded with all of this and our structures within the district as well. Yeah.
Trustee McKay?
Thank you. Through the chair, I guess I want to start by saying that I feel like PLC time provides an opportunity for taking a chance. And so having that environment in which to take a chance and learn. And maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, and for that to be a safe place. It's certainly something that I personally value and hope that is an opportunity for all levels of teachers and management and in all of our different roles for us to take a chance and be safe in that. So my question would be, do you find that as the PLCs have developed over time, does that space feel safe to take those chances and develop practice?
I think so. Just speaking from the revised curriculum being implemented at the grade 10, 11, and 12 level, it's a little bit more fresh, the curriculum revision for teachers at that grade level. And yeah, the ability to take risks and get together with the colleagues and say, how do we do this? We're creating this together. Let's try it. They're going down that same journey together. So they're not unfolding the curriculum by themselves in front of a group of students. They are working in their PLC to say, this is what we want them to learn, let's go make it happen. And then going back and they're debriefing and they are taking risks and they're encouraging and supporting each other. And as Linda said, or somebody mentioned about the relationship piece, right? It's that strength in relationships. And at Dover Bay, there's some teachers building stronger relationships around their PLC because they're focusing around a curricular area. They may have worked in the same building for 15, 20 years, but now they're having a professional relationship. They're talking about the learning and they're working side by side. And it is an opportunity to take risks and be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. And I think we know that the new curriculum is not like any other curriculum that's been implemented. It's a huge shift. Mm-hmm. For those of us that went through a curriculum shift in the past, this is a totally different kind of curriculum because it's not a content-based curriculum, it's an actual shift in instructional practice. And so it's new for everyone. Whether you're an experienced teacher or a new teacher, it's a whole different way of working with kids and getting those kids to take ownership over their learning and facilitating that learning process. So it's difficult, and so the more minds that can come around it and plan together and work together and see how it's going together and seeing the impact, it's significant. Yeah.
I've got myself next on the speakers list. I admire actually that you started the conversation with the quote of "collaboration by invitation does not work." Bravo! I think that's spot on and challenging. And you, within a paragraph, you also noted that as teaching is changing with the increasing complexity, that is actually a core aspect of why we need to keep that in mind. So it's like you've actually like opened up the room for some of the most challenging aspects of teacher learning and professional training. So I guess I wanted to speak to that a little bit, or ask a question about that. Is when I look at I think it was the framework or maybe the process, and looking at data, that makes it's kind of intuitive when you look at like groups of students and what are the patterns that we're seeing among groups, but we don't necessarily have groups when we're talking about our complex learners and students with developmental disabilities. So I'm wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about, and I guess this question, I'm recognizing it's probably for like both sides of the room here, for our complex learners and for like, how does teacher and professional learning committees address kind of becoming more aware and educated on teaching about the needs of complex learners?
No differently than we would approach really any learning need or a curiosity that we have. So if you have a child in your class with these very complex needs, you're going to go through a problem-solving cycle. You might be pulling in maybe some different folks into that conversation that could support and have expert knowledge in particular areas. If you look at the inquiry cycle, there's like a new learning phase part where it might be you learn from your colleagues and you're sharing ideas. It might mean actually you have to go and find the research, go to an expert, do some readings, go professional learning, whatever it is you need to do. But it would be no different than any other learning need. Process might be a little more complex, and you might be pulling a few more people and experts more sort of into that loop a little bit.
Yeah, and I would just add that 15, 20 years ago, teachers often they would define their work as working in isolation, right? I teach a subject area and I teach a group of kids, and they really didn't have a lot of that collaborative process. So if you asked a teacher, 20 years ago, how do you meet the complex needs of your learner, they would often respond, well, how am I supposed to do this? I can only do so much. I'm one person. And then they would look to an expert somewhere outside of their classroom to provide that support. And now that question comes inside that PLC, and it becomes, I've got a complex learner, or a learner with diverse needs, or a student who suffered some trauma, and I don't know what to do with it. And the room has some wisdom around that. And there's that ability to say, let's try some different things, or let's together go and find some of those experts to bring it in so that we have the solution here. And it's so much more comforting for those teachers to be able to say, I have a team that's working in my classroom. Even though I'm in the classroom by myself, I have a team, a professional learning community team that is helping me provide supports for this complex needs. So it's a big shift in the last probably 5 years, in my experience, for teachers wanting to be responsible for the diversity of all their learners. And I think a lot of that's credited to them having a sense of they've got a team working with them.
And if I can just add to that, we have our individual or our groups our inquiry groups that are happening across a school, and so they're learning within that group. But we also have the ability to pull the entire group together, staff together, to do learning as a whole, and bring in experts or watch videos on inclusion or something like that. And when we see that there's a common need across all the inquiry groups, even though that might not be specifically what they're learning for their own in their own group, but we have that ability to bring in experts and have that shared learning experience within this venue, and it's great to have that. And we also have, of course, other structures in place, such as our school-based teams, where we problem solve around individualized student needs as well.
Okay, so I hear I've got a couple of people behind. Laura was wanting to.
I want to just right off. I wanted to just emphasize what Don was saying, is that we are now seeing this sort of era where there is a collective responsibility for every single student. I think we still have a great distance to go, but this shift in that I am part of the solution, that child isn't being taken off somewhere and I'm not right, and it's not in my classroom, here she's not in my classroom most of the time. We're moving away from that, a great deal away from that. So I wanted to emphasize what Don was saying.
And just to add, concurrently we have been building our itinerant staff for assisting students who have special needs. And so we have really strong itinerants who make themselves available to PLCs and to schools to build capacity at school sites. I look forward to telling this board more about those itinerants as we go through the next few months.
Thank you. Was there... I have a I keep getting whispers that there's people back here, so sorry. Was there anybody else wanted to add to? Back to our speakers list, Trustee Barron.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing around this. I've seen firsthand the benefits of these PLCs, so this really resonates with me in understanding how this benefits students, teachers, everybody involved in our school district. And you actually just brought up what I wanted to ask about, was that we're speaking a lot about what's happening within our schools for collaboration amongst our staff in the individual schools. But what I wanted to ask a little bit more about, as a new trustee, I don't know what's happening to bring together the schools together around, you know, learning from one another, what's happening in each of these schools, and how can the different groups learn from one another basically. But I think you spoke to that already, around, maybe you could speak a little bit around how the schools can work together a little bit more collaboratively, I guess is my question.
Yeah, we have our individual inquiry groups, we have our school goals, and our goal is around reading improvement, and building a community within our school of learners and trust and amongst our students. But we have individual inquiry groups, and we have a primary team that's working on phonological awareness. We have an intermediate team that's working on reading strategies. We have another team that's working on 3 or 4 teachers that are working on writing. So we've got these individual groups, and then we share across them, because we know that everyone needs to build that capacity and learn from each other. And so they're doing the specific inquiry work around looking at their data and what they need as professionals and what the students need and how that student's driving that learning and going into their classrooms and trying new things and coming back. But then every once in a while we cross over that learning, and certainly at the end of different points in time we have to look at our impact, and that's the key. And then we share that, and then we reassess where are we at and what do we need to do next. And so, and then at the end of the year, we do a formal write-up as well, and that's connected to different shared learning across the district and different shared learning across the province as well, through different grant write-ups and things like that. And I, even as my first year as vice principal, together with the principal of the school, we looked at it and we did our own inquiry as to what do we need to do differently next year, and what kind of impact are we having, and what are our next steps. So it just kind of infiltrates the whole system when we have that inquiry mindset.
And that'll be one of the, I'm sure one of the outcomes from our review will be, you know, as we survey the system, the system is going to tell us, hey, how do we get the good stuff that's happening somewhere else? How do we share that and spread that and make sure that it happens at each of our sites? So I'm sure that system capacity stuff will come out in the review for sure.
And there's different teams too that work across the district. Like we had a math group that worked with another math. Like the district facilitates these opportunities for these individual inquiry groups to come together at district venues to talk about their learning that's happening. So.
Superintendent.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Dawn and Linda, for the presentation. You're clearly experts on PLCs. I appreciate you coming from another district and bringing your expertise here. We poached both of you, and we're quite happy about that. And of course, the leadership from Assistant Superintendent Robin Gray, who I remember standing out here and convincing the board of the day to do this work. She led the original PLC committee, so thank you for that. And of course, Assistant Superintendent Laura Tate, who's leading this charge at elementary schools, also an expert in this field. Thank you for bringing up John Hattie and his work, because it's critically important.
You're welcome.
In that,
somebody's got to say Hattie.
Well, collective teacher efficacy is the biggest bang for our educational dollar. And what PLCs do is bring that together, of course. So we have teachers working together, looking at essential learning, using data to inform what they're doing next. And Linda, you said the most important thing of all is that when teachers understand their impact, that's a critical element in this cycle. So, and sharing a little bit also about the fact that we have dozens, hundreds of separate little PLCs across this district, all doing work to improve student learning. So thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we have District Principal Brett Hancock talking about our Learning Alternatives program. In very snazzy duds, too.
The students picked up my shoes today, so.
Do you want to start with the presentation?
Start with the presentation. Siemna, Solquin, Siemna, Siaya, Siemna, Squalaqua, Enthapa, Brett Hancock, Tanit Smith, Snanemo, Hisepka, Snanemo. The translation to what I said was, welcome to our elders, our family, and our friends. My name is Brett Hancock, and I am the district principal with Learning Alternatives. I am a member of the Mid-Island Métis Nation, and I grew up on the land of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. I also said thank you, and I raised my hands as a sign of gratitude to Snuneymuxw for sharing their traditional and unceded territory with all of us, so we can live, learn, work, and play in such a beautiful place. The wise Thomas King once said, "The truth about stories is, that's all that we are." My purpose here tonight is to share with you a bit of our story, who we are, the Learning Alternatives family. Here's a list of the beautiful opportunities that Learning Alternatives offers our students. But before I talk about them, let me tell you who we are. We're dynamic. We're forward thinkers. We believe in personalized programs. We believe in a strength-based approach to learning. We believe every single student can learn at a high level. And we believe it's our responsibility to offer students innovative teaching and learning strategies so they can reach beyond their self-imposed limitations. We do second chances. We apologize. We forgive easily. We respect one another. We keep our promises. We never give up. We encourage one another. We laugh often. We belong because we are a family. Junior Learning Alternatives, commonly referred to as JLA, is located at John Barsby Community School. We currently have 27 students enrolled, and it's a program that fosters a sense of belonging. And it does so through a variety of creative, hands-on learning experiences. For the first time ever this year, we have some of our senior students working in this junior program as peer tutors for our younger students. The senior students come from our Senior Learning Alternatives program, which is often referred to as SLA. It's also located at John Barsby with an enrollment of 159 students. Here, we inspire students to create a vision for their future. Our staff offers support to help transition that vision into reality. At our very core, we believe in building trusting relationships that are centered around mutual respect. Ravenslalem. It operates out of John Barsby. When I put this proposal, we had 10 students. I had 2 students come to the door today keen to register with this program. And Raven stands for Reclaiming a Village of Empathy and Nurturing Spirit. Lalem is the Hulkaminam word for house. This is a specialized program that believes in prioritizing overall wellness alongside a student's coursework. The program empowers young parents to achieve positive academic performance in conjunction with effective parenting abilities. And I should say, that in partnership with Tim Davey, my wife was the first teacher of this program. So it holds a very dear place in the Hancock hearts. Next, we have About. About is our new satellite site at Woodlands. And About stands for Alternative-Based Opportunities United by Teamwork. That's a mouthful, so we kind of roll with just About. It's a vibrant program. It incorporates unique learning opportunities and Indigenous cultural education as the foundation to all of the core academics. This program is a welcoming place for learning, for sharing, and for gathering. Learning Alternatives would like to thank Trustee Robinson and Trustee Berzovich and the previous board for supporting us in creating this beautiful space over the past summer. Intro to Trades, or ITT, is currently housed at John Barsby, and it enrolls 18 students each semester. These students come from different buildings around the school district and apply. It gives students an opportunity to work alongside one teacher, one education assistant, and in the mornings, they work on their academics. In the afternoons, they head to the shop, the yard, or into the community. We have some amazing upcoming projects that's going to give our students an opportunity to not only focus on the carpentry and framing aspects, but they're going to be working with electricians, with plumbers, with welders, and other tradespeople. FLOW stands for Family Learning, Outreach, Wellness. It's an outreach program to support youth that are unable to attend school. This is often because of a diagnosed mental health condition. FLOW currently has 19 students, and all of our incoming students are reviewed by a screening committee. That involves district staff, medical professionals, MCFD representatives, and other community partners. Students often complete their coursework with the Island Connect Education Distance Learning Program because they share a site with them. Our adult programs are instructed by Rick Rembold and Jim Heeks. Rick supports learning at Snawyeth Laleham, the old Woodbank School. Jim Heeks leads learning for adults at Nanaimo Correctional Center. Each program has approximately 20 students. I always like to include the Circle of Courage model, as it's something that's woven through all of the Learning Alternative programs. This model of youth development is based on fostering the principles of belonging, mastery, independence, and generosity. It guides us to support the building of students' capacities in each of these areas. And it helps us lead them to resiliency in learning and resiliency in life. If you haven't already, I encourage each of you to read Reclaiming Youth at Risk. It speaks to supporting vulnerable youth, and we know that a school's success is directly related to the quality of programs that we offer the most vulnerable learners. This type of work has become imperative to all of us in every building. Project-based learning. All our school-age programs provide rich project-based learning opportunities. These also allow our amazing staff to combine multi-grade levels and the core competencies from a wide range of subject areas. Most importantly, we get to learn together, and we get to work as a team. Some of our recent projects are carving a new school sign at the About site with local Coast Salish artist and good friend Noel Brown, building sheds in the community, the NDSS field, through our ITT program, and the recent creation of our free store at Junior Learning Alternatives. Poverty is an issue which impacts every school around this district. It's something that we deal with daily. Before we move and can move forward with any type of learning, we need to make sure that every one of our students feels safe and supported. Our food studies courses have helped learn and teach students how to cook on a tight budget. Most importantly, it provides them with a tasty finished project to share with their classmates so they're not going hungry. Our free store was created through a project-based learning opportunity, and it offers clothing throughout the school year for all students without feeling shamed. Loaves and Fishes Food Bank provides on-site support to many of our students and families that are in need. Grad rates. Our staff have created personalized graduation plans for every grade 11 and 12 student that we have at Learning Alternatives. We keep students at the center of their learning, but we also keep the families involved. We strive to graduate students in a supportive and culturally rich environment. This allows students to reach their full potential and to have fun while they're doing it. Learning Alternatives shares Superintendent Saywell's big, hairy, audacious goal of raising grad rates of all students to 80% over the next 5 years, and to increase the graduation rates of students of Aboriginal ancestry to 70%. Almost half of our student population identifies as having Aboriginal ancestry. And this year, Learning Alternatives is in a place to graduate more Aboriginal students than any secondary school in the Nanaimo Ladysmith Public Schools. Learning Alternatives and all other secondary schools have identified each of our Aboriginal students who are in a good position to graduate. Those that are a maybe, and those that we're most concerned about. And Learning Alternatives is committed to doing every single thing humanly possible to connect with our students, support them in their learning journey, to make sure all of them are in a position to walk across the stage with the graduating class of 2019. Our mission is to provide dignity, purpose, and options to all of our students. These wise words come from two women who were once teachers of mine and some of the other leaders in this room. They were mentioned earlier. Linda Kaiser and Judy Halbert have shown leaders and learners around the globe that this is what we need to provide. So what I would like to do is I'd like to share what those words mean to us as a Learning Alternatives family. Dignity. Students leave our program knowing that they have worked hard, knowing that they've been challenged, and they've found success. They know and believe that they have accomplished difficult goals. Purpose. Students leave our program knowing who they are. They know what they have to offer in this world. They believe their contributions are important. Options. Students leave our program with the knowledge and skills necessary to be successful beyond the walls of our school buildings. We as a staff work hard every day to improve life chances of our youth, and we never, ever give up on them. We've just launched our school website. We have a great deal of student involvement to come, and look for some exciting changes there. Please give us a follow on our new Twitter page and Instagram. And I'd like to give you an opportunity to view a video that are about students put together with our staff, because they want each and every one of you to know what learning looks like at this new, beautiful site. At the end of the video, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Hey, Sepka.
I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3. I'll be there, and I know when I need it, I can count on. I'll sing a song beside you. And if you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Oh, find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on.
Did our communications department have anything to do with that video?
Not yet. There wouldn't be any duplicates if the experts in the room would have had it, but that was a student-led project that Chad Joe helped guide them through.
Really? Awesome.
On 1 day's notice. I was told I was presenting. I was asked to present on Wednesday evening, and I think it was probably about 4:58 in the morning. I shared with students, but I got an email with that video saying this is what the kids want to represent. So a very beautiful thing. I'm very fortunate to get to work with students and staff that do that type of stuff.
I don't know if speaking of voluntolding people, did Trustee O'Neill have a comment, or was that? Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Hancock, thank you. Or Heichka. I'm just new to this, but I've been told that if I practice and not be embarrassed, I will learn. Thank you for sharing such a passionate presentation. It makes me really honored to be here and to be a part of this, and all I can say is continue all the good work.
Actually, it's Trustee McKay that I had next.
Through the chair, I'm going to struggle to talk to you. First I want to say thank you. Your words that you will never give up mean everything to me. And if I could offer you my time to speak to your students about what that feels like and to become a graduate when nobody gave up, I would be honored to do so. So I would, my question for you is, when may I come and visit?
The one, we had staff meeting and a PAC meeting today. The one thing our staff, parents, and students echo is anytime. Our doors are always open, and it doesn't disrupt the learning. We have so many different community groups come through. We have so many different adults come through. Scott will lose the occasional game of foosball to a student. It doesn't disrupt the learning. So whenever you're in the neighborhood, the Woodlands is kind of a weird entrance down, enter off Strathmore, and it's a side door there. When you're in the John Barsby venue, please feel free to come in our rooms at any time, introduce yourself, and hear from the kids.
Thank you.
You are always welcome, and that goes to each and every one of you.
And Trustee Barron?
Yes, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Very strange. Brett. I have a couple questions, so maybe I'll just stick with one and then be put back on the speakers list because they're not really interconnected.
Okay.
On the grad rates list that you included in your presentation, I'm just wondering when these speculations were made around it has maybe placed on there around whether they would graduate or not. I'm wondering at what grade that speculation is made as to whether they're on the right path to graduate or not.
Thank you. So that is something that all school administrators have worked on in partnership with district principal of Aboriginal education. So that was very recent work. So we sat down with our Aboriginal support teacher, our grade 12 teachers, our counseling team, as administrators across the district, and identified every single one of those students. And I think the meaningful work comes into putting their name and speaking about their family and what they've been through and what's worked, right? So they're very clear, detailed plans that are in place that have been shared with Ted Cadwallader, but it's shared amongst the staff. So they have a team backing behind them, so we can make sure that those kids cross a graduation stage with dignity, purpose, and options.
Thank you to the chair. I just wanted to add to this. Again, this is an initiative that we have going across our district. Our district principal, as Mr. Hancock has pointed out, Ted Cadwallader for Aboriginal Education, is leading this process. I think we spoke about the Student Success Committee and the work that's happening there. And we've taken this from the focusing on grade 12 students to focusing all students of Aboriginal ancestry through our district, K through 11, with the addition of the 12s there. So really it's our efforts, as we've spoken about, to really dig into the data, know who our students are individually, and focus on the strategies that we need to put in place to support them. So thank you for bringing this forward.
I have the opportunity to ask a question now. I'm wondering if you could talk to me a little bit about what kind of mental health supports we have in our programs, in the learning alternative programs.
It would be dependent on the program. So there's intensive mental health support through the FLOW program I described, with the 2 teachers, a child and youth family support worker, an EA, and there's constantly community supports coming through the buildings. The learning alternative programs that include the ITT, JLA, SLA, Ravens, About, they share 3 child and youth family support workers, and we have a lot of community space in both our venues at John Barsby and the Woodlands site, where we do have people from the community that are part of the schedule, so kids can see when they're there. The youth care workers do a brilliant job connecting them
to different supports in the community if they feel they need more than what's offered at the school or district level.
Thank you. We'll head back to Trustee Barron.
Thank you, through the chair. I just was hoping that you could clarify for me. I wasn't 100% sure the difference between, we have the Senior Learning Alternative Program, the Junior Learning Alternative Program, both at Barsby.
Yeah.
And then the new About program that's located out of Woodlands.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite clear on what the differences were between the two programs that were happening at Barsby and Woodlands.
So JLA is just a strictly junior program. By junior, grades 8 and 9. Senior would be grades 10, 11, and 12. The About, we run 8 to 12. The difference in delivery model is the About program is very, very inclusive, and I think it's kind of something we're trying through a lot of different PLC discussions among staff is grouping kids together and not just delivering a package because you're working with 3 different people. So if you check out the venue at the About and Woodland site allows for a bit more inclusive teaching. At times, sometimes we get pushed back if we have 150 kids, every seat's occupied and you can't do the same inclusive stuff there. So I think having some gym space as well allows for a lot more group and project-based learning. At the John Barsby site, we generally, when the space is quite full, we'll move outside or to the Harewood gym facility that we have access to do some of that stuff, which is very rich and a big part of what Learning Alternatives is about, and that's building relationships. So that time spent just transitioning from a classroom to a new venue allows our staff to connect with kids in a safe manner where, you know, they may be walking side by side, they're not intimidated by having to make eye contact, there might be some music playing in the background. So I think having that opportunity to move around is what builds the relationships and what allows kids to have success when we speak to the kids about what works.
Trustee Robinson?
More of a comment. Well, not more of a, it is a comment. Two things. We, many years ago, used to be known as the Lighthouse District. People across this province look to Nanaimo as a leader in education. After tonight's 3 presentations, I don't think anyone here would disagree with me that once again we are becoming, if we haven't already become, the Lighthouse District in British Columbia. These were 3 freaking amazing presentations this evening. And a comment about Brett. I will always remember meeting Brett 4 or 5 years ago teaching a vast program. The only teacher I ever heard who videotaped a class he did at the beginning of the year and the end of the year and evaluated it with his students, his presentation with his students. That's the man that is running this program, and one of the reasons that this program is going to push us right into being the Lighthouse District. Thank you very much, Brett. That was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
And I think Trustee Barron might have a few more.
Oh no, I was just saying hi, Chika.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. I'm not missing a well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh, I'm sorry. And Superintendent Sewell actually wanted to have a few comments.
Thank you.
And obviously refute the nasty
The
rumors about his
remark.
foosball skills.
We all hear about
Yeah.
I might have lost a game in foosball, but not pool. For sure. It's funny because it's humor. And it's true. Thanks, Brett, for taking the time tonight on very short notice to present here. But fortunate we didn't wear the same thing tonight, so that would have been embarrassing. Thanks for your passion, commitment, and all the crazy acronyms. I think you've added a few that I wasn't aware of in explaining all of the programs there. Clearly, we're in good hands in our Learning Alternatives programs, and thanks very much. Thanks to all the presenters tonight, and perhaps Jill Bailey can come back, and thanks for being here, Jill. Maybe you can present on some topic. maybe the idle ramblings of Jill Bailey. We'll invite you back. Thanks very much, Brett.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I think we'll turn to Trustee Higginson for an update on the Reconciliation Committee.
I'll make this quick. The committee continues to meet to design the consultation process, which I believe goes live Monday. So there's going to be a section of our website that has a video that explains the policy. It's also going to have a number of interviews and voiceovers with all of the committee members speaking from their perspective about what it means for themselves as well as the group that they were representing in the reconciliation family. And we also will be going out to the communities, both land-based and non-land-based relations, as well as all of our partner groups. This is consultation unlike consultation we've ever done before. I think it's going to set off a good roadmap as well, not only for future consultations for us, but also building relationships with our new superintendent, our board. It's going to be very exciting to be able to utilize the relationships that we've built through this process. And we will be coming back at the January Education Committee meeting to have a check-in on the process so far, and let the board know how it's going and what we're hearing. And with all luck, we'll be coming in January to seek final approval of the CISS framework to be put into our policy manual. I think that's it. And we start with the NDTA on Tuesday, I believe.
We'll see that.
I will not be there. Somebody else will be there.
Don't tell us where you're
Nope.
going to be.
Any questions? Anybody have any questions, thoughts? No? Okay.
Actually, sorry, I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm just processing. Video live Monday?
I believe.
Where?
So on the school district website, there's going to be a section for the consultation of this, so people can come to our website to engage in the consultation process. It will include this video that is some members of the, it's all members of the reconciliation family. Not all of them are in the video, but everybody who appears is part of the community or part of the committee. And then on top of that, there's also separate voiceovers and videos that people can listen to. You know, if you are a member of CUPE, you can hear how CUPE participated, what your CUPE representative feels that it will mean for you. As well, I did one, and Bill will do one for trustees about how we feel this will impact the board and the work that it's doing. So people can hear. There's one from Leanna Pellegrin from DPAC. So there's all sorts of ways to interact with the process. Okay. And then there's a lot of hand movements. Probably. I might have hit my microphone a few times.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and senior staff reports. We have none. Okay, and I assume that we have no correspondence referred to from a regular board meeting? No unfinished business, no new business.
Questions?
And as far as I know, any questions? And there's no questions. So I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Gleefully acknowledged by or put forward by Trustee Higginson and seconded by Trustee Brozovich. Can I get, what is it, agreement on that? Can I call for approval? Yes, thank you. And Robinson would like to stay, or do you agree to adjourn?
Sorry?
Yes. Would you agree to adjourn? Adjourned.